Shirley.
When she breathed her last breath.
What'd you say, Shirley?
When she let it go, God grabbed it.
Grabbed it.
So I want to say to the family, be not dismayed. Whatever be time, God will.
They about to church it up right here, though. This is when it gets. This is black church right here. All that other.
I want to say to the family.
What?
I can't tell you not to cry. Because God knows how to take those tears. Wash our misery away. I want to say to the grandchildren and the great-grandchildren. Aretha lived a good life, and I thank God that she did not die in disgrace.
In disgrace. Bishop. Oh, man. That's how the black church sounds. Absolutely. Look, that's black church. Black church. See, if you're not familiar with the black church, you can't keep up.
You cannot keep up with that.
Look what
It's old man.
Listen. Look what Shirley Caesar got on.
Sparkle.
She's sparkling from the head to the toe.
Tight sparkle. I don't know, Bishop, but I gotta say welcome. And you know what? That's black church. That's black church.
That's like that. Man, it's something about that. You can't really describe it. You gotta feel it.
It's a celebration in the midst of grieving.
A celebration in the midst of grieving.
Absolutely.
Wow.
And a whole lot of other stuff.
And a whole lot of other stuff.
Yeah.
Hey, Drew, where'd you put the trigger alert? Did you run off with the trigger alert?
No, it's on. It was under them papers.
Was it under the papers? Well, okay. Well, you know, because we've got to.
Please find the trigger.
We got a lot that we're going to cover, and we're going to jump right into this. I have the Bishop Reverend Dr. Timothy E. Tyler from Shorter Community AME Church. That's what I'm talking about. In the building on Labor Day. You know, and the Queen, Aretha, has gone from labor to reward.
Yes, she has.
She has taken that cross and turned it in for a crown.
She has crossed over to the other side.
She's more alive than ever.
She's more alive than ever.
Man.
Still saying R-E-S-P-E-C-T.
R-E-S-P-E-C-T. All right, before we jump deep into it, Bishop, hit him with the trigger alert.
This is a show that triggers people because you have entered a free think zone.
Yes, you have.
If you're not willing to be exposed to other points of view, tune out now and don't read the comments. You have been warned.
You have been warned. Mr. Law, you've been warned over there.
Warning!
You've been warned.
Hold your peace.
You know, folks have been waiting for this conversation. You know, Aretha has kind of touched every kind of segment of society.
Yes.
You know, that was, it was a funeral that touched the politics. It was inspirational. It was educational. It was historical. It was 10 hours. And that's not bad because some churches don't even start till 7 hours.
That's correct.
Did you have to go to church all day when you were growing up?
All day. We went to church from, you know, back in the 70s, that's when the black church started having 8 o'clock service.
In the morning?
Yes. And so they would have 8 o'clock service for people who like to go to church early. Well, in my house, when they started 8 o'clock service, that just meant for my parents that was one more service you had to go to. So we were there at 8 o'clock, we were there at 11 o'clock, then we had dinner. You remember, we had chicken quarters with green beans and potatoes. We had dinner at church. Then we went to the 4 o'clock program, and then there was prayer meeting after the 4. We were at church. Mama said Sunday was for God and God alone.
Well, so a 10-hour service, that's nothing to you.
Absolutely nothing.
I mean, when you see a new generation complaining about 10 hours in church.
Nothing.
Oh, man. I know I spent 10 hours in the club.
Yeah.
Easy.
Easy.
Mr. Allah, 10 hours in the club? That's nothing.
I had a professor in seminary. He said that sometimes you can't tell the difference between the church and the club.
I know.
He said that you have to watch the shadows. Dr. Henry Mitchell said that if the shadows are going up and down, that's the club. And if the shadow is going side to side, that's the church. But he said the music is the same.
The music is the same. Oh my goodness. You had some church, you had some club, you had everything at Aretha service.
You did.
It was on.
It was on.
Somebody said that there's a 10 CD box set available of the funeral.
Wow. But that's descriptive of the black community. Yes. Period. We don't make those solid lines between what is sacred and what is secular. And so in the church it often collides, and we saw a lot of train wreck happening at this funeral.
Okay.
Because oftentimes the church is in denial about what is sacred and what is secular.
Wow.
And sometimes we just show our underwear and it don't look pretty.
But you know, and what muddies it is when you put in so-called important people, especially white important people, in the midst of it.
Who don't have a clue.
They don't have a clue, and then we got to kind of explain or hold back or be a little different, because black folks code switch. You know, when we are amongst ourselves, it's really one way.
Yeah.
But as soon as you put some others in the mix, there's some code switching taking place.
Yes. Yes.
So I think that's why you get a lot of that, what was right, what was wrong, and you start criticizing what took place as opposed to rolling with the spirit.
Right. Or you figure out that what happened at that funeral, sometimes a lot of the ignorance happens at our churches every Sunday morning. We just don't see it as ignorance until other people tell us it's ignorance.
It's not nationally televised.
It's not nationally televised.
Right.
It's not on NBC,
Right.
CBS,
Right.
NBC.
Right. Because it's not nationally televised, we thought it was normal. But it's abnormal.
You know,
Nothing
every piece of that service I put on, I just love it. All of it, because if you were to take a black history class at the college level or an American history class, you could teach an entire curriculum on each aspect that was taking place. And I'm just so glad that a lot of individuals had a chance to put down their historical memory of the time.
Yes.
That will be documented for future generations.
Yes. Yes.
You know. So what are your thoughts about the funeral or homegoing celebration? We call it homegoing celebration, or tribute.
Yes.
What stands out the most for you?
Well, of course, the two most controversial, I would say, pieces that occurred at the funeral that also stand out for me would be, I'll start with the last one first, the eulogy.
The eulogy, okay.
The eulogy by Reverend Jasper Williams.
Do you know Reverend Williams?
I know of him. I've known of him all my life. I don't know him personally.
He seems to be around a long time.
Well, you know, I went to school in Atlanta, and he's an icon in Atlanta. He's one of the Baptist godfathers.
Oh, so he's not some just popped up Johnny come lately.
Absolutely not. He has a long history. Sometimes controversial, sometimes not. But he's considered one of the godfathers of Baptist preachers of the Baptist Church.
Oh, wow. Okay, so talk about it.
Well, I think that it was problematic. First of all, let me say this. A lot of what happened, I felt, this is, my wife has taught me that your opinion should not always be widespread. And so there's a phrase she uses that I really appreciated. She often says what I know to be true.
Uh-huh.
So let me preference with what I know to be true.
Okay.
Is that in that sermon there was a lot of victim blaming.
Okay.
Okay. So you first of all, the word eulogy means in praise of.
Right.
In praise of. It's a Greek word. Okay. And so when you give a eulogy, you're supposed to say good things it means to say good things about the person.
Okay.
Wow.
Reverend Jasper Williams spent all of his time saying bad things about a whole culture of people.
Wow.
That's right.
Wow.
That's right.
So first of all, it was not a eulogy.
Okay.
Word.
Okay. Secondly, to say that because until black people learn how to love black people, black lives don't matter, is victim blaming.
Yeah, that erases an entire segment of history that gets lost in the shuffle.
It erases a history that says the reason why I have a hard time loving my black brother is because the white man helped me not to love myself.
Questlove
When I
says-
see my brother, I see myself.
Okay,
Then that's an illegitimate statement.
it really is.
The other problem with the eulogy was to say that a black man raised by a black woman can't be a man.
Well, that erases me from the equation.
Well, that erased Aretha from the equation because she raised several children without a man.
I was raised by a black woman.
You were, and you was.
I'm all right as a black man, I
think. You're reasonably relatively normal.
I'm relatively, I'm kind of balanced, but my shortcomings I can't blame on my mom.
Right. So that was problematic. So that and we can come back to that if you. The other problematic issue was the whole Ariana Grande.
Ariana Grande, who I didn't know who that was until after this service, and I talked to my daughters, and they told me that she's a really big deal.
And I thought that she was an item on a Taco Bell.
That's what the bishop said.
An Italian item on the Taco Bell.
Yeah, he
got the wrong restaurant.
wrong countries. He got the wrong thing, but he was trying to be lighthearted.
Needless to say, it was I won't say it was a racist statement because I don't believe black people can be racist.
Okay.
But it was a very bigoted statement.
Uh-huh.
First of all.
It was a breakdown in it was less than culturally aware.
Correct. And then to identify her as an item on a menu and proceed to grab her and hold her close. Those two items in itself became problematic. Let me say this to pastors. Don't touch.
Yeah.
Just don't touch.
Just don't do it.
Just don't. The height of familiarity that was, first of all, if he didn't know who she was and he didn't know her name or how famous she was, that probably should have been his first clue not to touch her.
Yeah, I think he might have gotten a little starstruck because he did mention that his daughters told him a little bit about how important she was because she was treated a little differently than the other celebrities. And it was more than him just grabbing her. He kind of held her. I call it like the hold. She felt like she was in a vice grip.
It was a grip grope.
Let me sock you up with a biscuit.
It was a grip grope.
Good, bad, or indifferent. It was a bad look, a bad touch. You got to back up off of that immediately.
And let me say this. I know of Bishop Ellis as well. Bishop Ellis is the presiding bishop of the funeral was in a Pentecostal Assemblies of the World Church, which is a very conservative black Pentecostal denomination. Even in the pulpit era, I believe I was told that they're sort of the way the women were situated and the men were situated was a little different, which is in that culture there was a very conservative in terms of how women are allowed to minister in the church versus men. It's a very conservative church. But I think that, and we'll talk about this, that there's an undercurrent in the black church period, in the black church historically, there's always been these sexual taboos, undercurrents, and so when they show themselves in unexpected ways, then the whole church goes crazy. Like all of Facebook has gone crazy over this incident. And so I said that there was victim blaming in the eulogy, there was victim shaming in this event, because all of a sudden unfortunately, there are people who would say that if she hadn't worn what she wore.
Now that's the huge problem right there, because had she been butt naked walking through the pulpit or down the street, that still does not give anyone a right to put their hands on her
Absolutely
and hold
not.
her. I mean,
Absolutely not.
it really is victim
No,
blaming.
that's rape culture.
It's-
That's American rape culture.
It's victim blaming.
But you know, the problem that I have also is, well, first you said that that's a conservative congregation. There are still a lot of churches that still would not even allow women in the pulpit.
Correct.
That's like women can't be in the pulpit. And when you think of the women blaming, there seems to be this narrative that because of the beauty of the woman, the man's weakness is always compromised, and as such, the world crumbles because of the woman.
Correct.
And the man never has a chance to take responsibility or has the privilege to not take responsibility, because patriarchy always comes to the defense.
The people in power are not blamed for the offense.
Never.
It's the powerless people. If she had done what she had done, then he wouldn't have been tempted to, I guess, to grab and grope her. I don't know what the situation
It was it because it's like he scooped her. You know, it was like a scoop and drag. Like, come over here to this pulpit. I want to say a few things. And it seemed like she was pulling away, but she was gripped and the hand was caught. It was all bad.
And let me say this. Let me say this. First of all, I don't understand why he had to talk to her at all.
Word up.
It wasn't like we were having the Oprah show in the middle of Aretha's funeral.
Word up.
Come on over here. Let me say something. I thought you was a Taco Bell.
Why did we have to have a conversation with her about Taco Bell in the middle of the funeral?
Word up.
Wow.
First of all, the funeral was scheduled to be 5 hours.
Well,
It turned out to be 10 hours, I guess.
when
8 hours.
When the spirit shows up, that's when church happens.
Well, the spirit left for those people.
Did you see those NBC?
There was a spirit there, but it was not the correct
it wasn't
spirit.
there.
No.
Oh man.
I had I've been watching. I've been reading on Facebook. One of my friends said, okay, he apologized. Let's move on. That's another problem.
We always got to move on.
When the onlookers and the offenders get to say, when we move on from the subject, oh well, let's just pray for the church. Let's just move on.
That's right.
But the people who receive the offense ought to be the ones who get to determine when we move on to healing and it's over.
You know, did the bishop ever offer like an apology? You know, like in the faith, it should be forgive me.
I think he sent an open letter apology and I'm not sure how the apology read, so I'm not even sure if it was an apology. I don't know if it said I shouldn't have said you were a Taco Bell item, or
I think it was a good.
I shouldn't have touched you. I'm not sure what the apology was.
Very interesting. I mean, there was so much. Thank you, Queen of Soul, for giving us this opportunity to have these conversations.
Yeah.
Because there's no accident.
And let me say this too. Again, it's interesting how the eulogy, which was supposed to be in honor of Aretha, really was a denigration of her life, because she raised boys.
Well, I thought the eulogy was kind of weird, and
the event with Ariana Grande was kind of interesting too, because there are so many people who were criticizing what she wore. But I just want to ask. I mean, I know we forget sometimes, but have we looked at Aretha's, the Queen's wardrobe choices over the years?
well, you know,
Remember the Soul Train blouse?
but you know, that's true. Okay, I want to go.
And I'm not denigrating
No.
what she wore. I'm just saying we need to stop picking and choosing where we criticize people.
Exactly. So then I want to get back to the eulogy. I want to talk about Ariana Grande.
Okay.
But let's talk about church clothes, Sunday best, and what's appropriate. Because there was a time when, you know, we were adorned in the worst. Burlap sacks, some had to go naked, no shoes, etc.
Yeah.
And then out of reverence, I believe, you know, you probably are more familiar with the history than me. At some point, we were able to dress up, go into the church, hold positions, you know, do all the different things inside of that institution that we were not allowed to participate in the broader society. So what is normal, acceptable, and who gets to say what is acceptable to worship in?
That's a long question.
It's a long question.
That's a long
It's a
question.
meandering question. We got a lot to cover. I got the bishop here.
Let me say this. If you came to
Go ahead.
if you came to Shorter Community AME Church, there are no signs on the doors telling you what to wear, what not to wear. I often tell people that I mean, it's a matter of trust. Even with young people, with what is acceptable in terms of what you wear. When I was growing up 100 years ago in the church, there were dress codes. The mothers and the fathers of the church, if you weren't wearing what was considered acceptable, then they would come to you and tell you.
Right.
And you didn't get offended by that, and you would correct. And the reason why is because the mothers and the fathers in the church were also the ones who encouraged you.
Right.
There was a relationship.
There was a relationship.
Okay.
And so they applauded you when you would get your speech correct. They would pray for you. The reason why I'm a preacher today is because the mothers of the church came to me and said, "You look like a preacher. I know, looks like God is." So they even affirmed our cause to be great.
Okay.
So when they came to you and said your dress is too short, you didn't mind because you had a relationship with them. The problem in the church today is we want to tell the young people, we want to tell people what to wear, what not to wear, where to walk, where we don't walk, but we've not developed a relationship.
And then how they tell them?
Ladies and gentlemen, in the Free Think Zone, the trigger alert has been issued. We are going to plow through so much more, but I need someone to go to brotherjeff.com right now, brotherjeff.com, and make a donation of any amount. Seven donations. brotherjeff.com. Pastor, thank you for your contributions to this show and for making sure that we're able to continue doing this work. I know you've got plenty, but there's another black card for you.
Thank you, sir.
Sure, that you can give that to someone. You've got plenty.
I have African American cards.
You've got so many
black cards.
There we go. Let's talk about the traditional church and this current church.
Sure.
Because, like you said, there seems to be a disconnect in terms of relationship and what's expected, and a lot of the traditional churches or congregations seem to be having difficulty attracting and retaining even the parishioners' children and grandchildren.
Absolutely.
Is that a fair statement?
That's a very fair statement.
What's the disconnect, and is it just that the church has evolved into something else, and what we saw on that stage, a lot of that is moving on, or is there something that needs to be done to course correct, or what's happened?
Well, I think it's just the opposite. I don't think the church has evolved into something else. I think a lot of the reasons why our churches are shrinking is because the church has gotten stuck in where it was.
There you go.
And so, we're raising generations now that are fast moving and surrounded by action and social media. And so when they come to church on Sunday, the church slows down about 50%.
It's not keeping up.
It's not keeping up.
Wow.
And so they're forced to, it's almost like going back into a time warp. It's like attending Aretha's funeral. It's like going back to all the oldies but goodies.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not, like, for example, when you think of Aretha Franklin, that was more of my mother's generation music in terms of the hits that they talked about, the R-E-S-P-C-T, I Say a Little Prayer.
Yes.
I was able to latch on to Aretha Franklin, I think in the 90s, around when Who's Zooming Who, Freeway of Love, we're riding on the freeway in the pink Cadillac and all of that. That bridged the gap.
Yes.
But I don't think there's a gap that's been bridged between Aretha Franklin and this Ariana Grande generation.
Absolutely.
So they have absolutely no understanding unless they're a student of history.
Yeah.
They don't have that relationship. And I think that however Ariana Grande was able to be a part of that program, which I think was product placement. From a business standpoint, people always jockey to get their acts in certain positions. This is being a global service, and now she's
and
on.
beyond that, it was reported that Aretha had a special feeling about
her,
that she really appreciated her performance and who she was as a performer.
And so now here's another example of Aretha reaching into another generation.
Absolutely.
Because we wouldn't even be talking about her.
Absolutely.
I mean, Ariana in this situation has kind of even overshadowed some of the other messages of the memorial.
Ariana was singing at the funeral because of relationship with Aretha.
I love it.
The reason why the funeral was at Bishop Ellis's church is because it was the largest church.
Right.
So it was out of necessity that we were having the funeral at Bishop Ellis's church. It was out of relationship that Ariana was singing. So Ariana, in her short skirt, probably had more reason to be at the funeral
Yeah.
than the people who were filling the big church.
You know, and speaking of her dress, because that has brought up a lot of conversation.
Yes.
It was inappropriate. It wasn't inappropriate. How do you assess that? And when I look at, what's happening on stage with the entertainers, she came as she was.
She came as she was.
And she came as her generation presents on stage, etc. She was there to perform and pay respect.
They invited her.
Yes.
And all of who she was. And that's what she brought to the funeral. How she dresses, how she sings, how she performs. That's who they knew her to be. And so to expect now that she has to put on the long black dress of the black church with a black veil of the funeral.
It wasn't going to happen.
It wasn't going to happen. So why do you expect that to happen?
But your wife, Dr. Nita Mosby Tyler, says it was a contemporary minstrel show. The end.
I've heard two dope things from Dr. Nita today.
Could you ask my wife just to state her true feelings and not to beat around the bush?
Dr. Nita, was it a minstrel show? She said it was a minstrel show.
Yeah.
The end. That's it. Okay.
She gave her husband tax. She came wrong.
I know we're gonna get back to that dress because it also brought up a whole nother conversation about, you mentioned the victim blaming, but a lot of people who have been assaulted within faith institutions and outside of faith institutions are really being triggered in terms of what not only the groping, but they have actually experienced in some threads rape, etc.
Well, it's a very sensitive subject in the church. It's a real subject, and it's not even in Aretha's own life. Her father, C.L. Franklin, has a history that if you looked it up, it's horrible.
Right.
Her father.
Her
Yeah.
father.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And yet, it's. I think at the beginning of discussion, I said the complication, even the complication of the historical black church is often when the sacred and the secular meets.
Right.
And so when the short skirt and the holiness get together,
It's gonna be a train wreck.
It's a train wreck, and that's just historically, and so it is now forcing the historical black church to be real and to really. I'm glad this happened because it forces us to grapple with stuff that we whisper about, but we don't ever talk about. That's why people say, "Let's just move on." That's how Reverend Franklin is. I mean, that's how Jasper Williams is, or the bishop didn't mean anything. No, let's talk about this, because this is not just about what happened with Ariana Grande. This is not just about what Jasper Williams said. This is the historical undercurrent of divinity meets sexuality in the black church that we don't ever talk about.
Wow.
We just whisper about it.
And then
Aretha had a history too, though.
Aretha had a history
I'm
too.
telling you.
See, I gotta go get the Aretha Franklin autobiography.
Man.
This whole situation has brought a lot to light.
Here's the problem, Jeff. When Aretha died, the one thing they said about Aretha was they appreciated her as an artist because she never left the black church. And that's kind of a swipe on some of the black artists who got famous in the church and left the church. Now here's the problem, Jeff. Because Aretha never left the black church, neither did her stuff.
Oh!
Yep. So now at the funeral, where we're celebrating her life in the secular world and in the church world, now we're being forced to grapple with. I don't think we meant for it to be as graphic as it.
But the Lord works in mysterious ways.
His wonders to perform. And so now we're grappling with issues of misogyny. Power. Oh, that's the bishop. Don't say nothing against the bishop. The Bible says that touch not my anointed. Oh, he didn't mean anything by that. He was just trying to be friendly. Oh, I know him. He would never do anything.
Wow.
No. Let's talk about it.
Yep.
Let's grapple with it, and let's deal with what is it about the undercurrent of secret things let's deal with this so that the church can grow, and so that we can see. If we don't deal with our past, we'll never have a future.
Is there a way to deal with that past? Because when I was listening to the eulogy, it sounded to me like Reverend Jasper.
Yeah.
Sounded like he was doing a eulogy for Aretha's father. He spoke, it would sound like a second eulogy for Aretha's father based on what he might have wanted to say back then, because he was throwing those hints out about, well, he wasn't perfect and I'm not perfect either.
Right.
And, he left, the marriage broke up and we don't know what happened there. Right. I mean, it seemed like he was attempting to unearth some stuff without unearthing some stuff.
He was, in that instance, I believe, just voicing the obvious, is that it's I want to say it's complicated. And so once again, instead of our really allowing human beings to be human beings, we want to create these perfect beings.
Wow.
And in the midst, and in the midst of deifying people, we trip over our process of deifying them, and then mess falls out. And mess just fell out at that funeral.
Well, Jesse Paris, what do you do as a pastor, the head of a flock, or someone that's in the faith, and you get comments like all preachers and pastors are pulpit pimps?
When I hear well, let me say this: I'm not responsible for all pastors. I am responsible for Timothy Tyler.
That's right.
Okay. So all I can do is serve the people the way I know how to serve people, and all I can do is make sure that my behavior is never pimpified. I don't even know if that's a word, but I'll pray.
This is the free think zone, and it's created as well. Jasper Lester, my man Jasper, good to hear from. He said there was nothing wrong with that girl's dress. That pastor should have kept his hands to himself.
Should have kept his hands to himself. Period.
Wow.
Sure.
But then there's some others that said that dress, like Tracy said, that dress was totally inappropriate. And I was looking at it, Reverend Chickenfoot or Finger should have left that body alone. It's both sides. The dress is, that's interesting.
When people come into my church on Sunday morning,
can they come as they are?
They can come as they are.
There you go.
And the role of the church, as I said, is to create a relationship. And we're funny we're a funny people sometimes. We deem certain clothing items appropriate or if it's not appropriate in the church, then is it appropriate at the club?
Oh, good point. If it's not appropriate at the church, is it appropriate at the club? Because an elder once told me that people go to bed in what they should go to the club in, and they go to the club in what they should be wearing in bed. They all covered up at night and uncovered. I mean, a person should be able to wear what they want, but you pose a good question. If it's not appropriate in the church, why should it be appropriate in the club?
Were there any instructions given to those who would be performing for those who were asked to perform? Was there a dress code?
Right.
Right.
That's the question.
And
I thought about it too. In my church situation, when people sing, they would never be in the pulpit. They would never be in that area. Mm-hmm. There's a place for singers.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know.
Timing and
so
place.
evidently, somebody decided that this was now going to be like a stage.
Mm-hmm.
Well, back in the day, they used to call them the churched and the unchurched, and you'd have God's music and the devil's music. Mm-hmm. So everything outside in the club was the purview of the devil. Mm-hmm. Even the pastor Jasper, who gave the eulogy, talked about the fact that this was a beautiful history lesson in terms of his daughter was singing the blues, and there was a Memphis concert where at 8 o'clock, there was going to be the pastor preaching a sermon, and at 10 o'clock, there was going to be a blues concert, and they were mixing. Yeah. And her father didn't leave because he said he was going to listen to his daughter sing those blues. Yeah. So he was able to merge, the sacred and the secular. Yeah. Do you find that there's still people who just can't see a relationship to the two? It's just either one or the other?
There are some people, but historically and culturally, we are mergers, and so our music has merged, our religion has merged, and as I said earlier, that's the complication of our culture, and so when the merger gets to be too much for us, then it causes an explosion.
Well, Robin Wiley said, "Oops, it is appropriate. Is it appropriate at the club? If you dress like that at the club, it may be acceptable or unacceptable, but I will say one thing, it's dangerous. When you get out there and those folks is drinking and drugging and it can get wild out here. People think they have the right to touch on people simply because of the way they're dressed, and some say they're asking for it. And I think that's crazy.
I usually don't put sins in hierarchical categories, but however I felt about what she was wearing, once she got groped and compared to a Taco Bell menu,
it's over. Game over.
Exactly.
Because you
got criticism about what she was wearing.
Yeah, it's done.
And now we need to focus and help Bishop know: don't touch.
Don't refer to people as food.
Don't touch and don't refer to people as food.
So this is a lesson for the hierarchy and the bishop, because if they wanted, I bet that Ariana Grande's following, if she embraced and went into that building, she would bring a lot more people into that building than the traditional church would be able to. Well, maybe you should be welcoming and say, how can I create those relationships?
I said on Facebook, I did say maybe we shouldn't even discuss what she was wearing anymore, because first of all, she's probably never coming back to the church. So we don't have to worry about what she even wears the next time.
Well, Tracy said, if your cheeks are close to being exposed, it's a great indicator that your dress is too short. Well, not excusing. Now she call him Reverend Touchy Feely. Thank you, Aretha, for presenting an opportunity to have this conversation. You all go to brotherjeff.com, make your donation. We're going to get back to that. And I want to talk about the eulogy later, because there were some valid points that I think the pastor or Reverend Jasper made in terms of how we interact with one another. He seems like a strong, what we used to call a race man.
So now what were the valid points?
Well, I think that he was saying that, and notwithstanding the piece about, parenting and, there were some very offensive pieces about, going into amongst our people and we always begging, or, it was very...
Why do we parent the way we do?
Well, because of the tradition. He didn't want to talk about the history.
Why is it that you can go into our homes and there are no fathers?
Systematic systematic social engineering at the expense of one people to benefit the pleasures and desires of another person. But when he was talking about things like it's going to take us to come together and link arms to address our own problems, I liked hearing that, because if we think others from the outside are going to take the lead in terms of where we're going, that's misdirected.
What are our own problems?
Whatever our problems are in terms of housing, unemployment, and even our successes.
Who created those problems?
Oh, well, I know how they were created.
So why are they my problems now?
Yeah, they're created by such an individual, but they're still ours to reconcile and deal with.
That's like somebody throwing an egg at me and then you blaming me because my face is dirty.
Yeah, but I'm going to take that egg off my face. I'm going to take that egg off my face. Then I'm going to get on your helmet. See, when we get to the point where we say, you better not throw another one of them eggs over here.
But you talking to him. You not talking to, we not talking to each other.
Then we're going to say, next time that clown throws an egg, let's unite and get on his helmet.
Okay. So he's never out of the equation.
He's going to be in the equation.
He's always in the equation.
We're going to get on his helmet.
So how you going to say we going to get together, we going to fix the problem without leaving him in the equation?
Well, he's the problem. No, he's the problem.
Right.
He is the problem.
So don't be preaching to me.
Yeah, he is the problem with a capital T.
With a
his
capital
policies,
T.
his legislation, his Negro leadership that he props up to bring in front of us, to advocate on behalf of him, and even some of the faith leaders who would say that we are less than.
Yes.
They should know more than anyone that we are capable, have a long history, and we're overcoming some stuff, and we continue to push the ball forward. And yes, let's link arms, but to disavow someone else,
Questlove from the Roots said the Reverend Jasper Williams' eulogy is the reason why our generation stopped going to church and is never going back.
Oh, you saying that they're never going back?
No, Questlove from the Roots said that.
Right. Let me ask this then. When you think of church, and Lisa, thank you. She says she donated. Right? Okay. Come on, Lisa.
6 more donations.
Lisa, we just need 6 more of those remarks, and we are over the mountain and through the woods or something like that.
Let me say this about the comment of, and that's why this generation is never coming back
to the church.
To the church. I believe that there will come a time, and we're fast approaching it, when church will have to be done differently. And so I don't think that it should scare the church to hear that a generation is not coming back. I think it just signals to the church that maybe it's time for us to stop waiting on generations to come to us. And now we need to pattern our ministry in such a way as that we go to them.
Yeah,
there you go. You got to go to where it is.
And so as my wife would often say, we've got to learn how to do church different.
But that's what you do the moment you came and landed and took on the mantle of Shorter Community AME Church. I remember a big banner outside of the church that said "Cutting Through the Crisis."
Yes.
And you all started paying not church members public service bills and buying groceries and getting out amongst ordinary people.
Right. People outside the church.
That's your heart. And then I've come to learn this term called social justice ministry. I thought that's what church was.
That's what church is.
But some people don't embrace. Some church pastors don't.
Is justice.
Oh, I like that.
I hear you.
I got in trouble with my denomination. Some people.
I think sometimes they think you're out in front of that.
Well, they took offense that we declared that last Sunday was going to be Social Justice Sunday, and I got full of myself and I put on Facebook, well, I thought every Sunday was Social Justice Sunday because I believe that that's the crux of the gospel. I can't imagine what we're doing on Sunday if we're not telling people that there is justice for you and for your spirit and for your soul.
In the church.
In the church. When I got to Shorter, people said, Pastor, we're shorter community and we want to get back in the community. And that's what the church is going to have to do. And so, and we're going to have to, all these people getting all upset about what people wear in the church. Now you go to church on Sunday, you can roll a bowling ball through there and hit nobody. Some of y'all better take them any way they dress.
Okay, okay. So since we're speaking of dress, Mr. Allah and Gerald,
we don't have the luxury.
And what may or may not have been enough was Cicely Tyson's hat too much. So we're not gonna talk about that hat.
Not in that church.
They got on Aretha about her hat.
I want to talk about Cicely's hat.
Well, in that church tradition, hats are a thing.
But that was a hat.
Yeah, you said hat.
But it wasn't out of play.
It wasn't out of. But Cicely, she took that hat to a whole nother level.
She had to show up.
And then she gave a dynamic kind of. It was in the theater world. What would you call that? Was it a monologue?
A soliloquy?
Man, Cicely looked good at 94. How old is Cicely?
Yeah. And she's Minister Farrakhan's cousin. And he 86.
Well, speaking of Minister Farrakhan, they didn't let him talk. He was classy on that stage.
That was the best thing that ever could have happened.
Because he spoke loudest.
He was the most intelligent sounding person on that pulpit. He didn't say a word.
Hey, you know, when the Reverend said the culture's emerging, that's what I was thinking. He was the biggest social conservative.
Yes.
When he got a song out with Snoop Dogg.
I bet Mr. Farrakhan said thank you for not allowing him to speak, but he spoke loud.
He spoke loud, and I like how the media they tilted that camera to take him out the service. And that camera went like this. Minister Farrakhan next to Bill Clinton, and Hillary looked like she couldn't stand up on her own volition. She looked a little.
Well,
she looked a little not well.
Some cultures can't stay in church for 10 hours anyway.
Oh yeah, that's yeah.
Now everybody can do that. Full strength.
Yeah, it took everything Hillary had in her.
Right.
10 hours.
Yeah.
Okay. Cicely Tyson. What about Shaka Khan? She didn't know the words. She put the word. I like that's creative. Did y'all see Shaka Khan put that going up yonder? Them words was taped to that big fan.
Yeah, man.
Because it's been years since Shaka said going up yonder.
I listen. I love Shaka. That's black genius.
Right.
Give me that big fan. I'm gonna fan that open. She had them words tapped on there, and she was killing it. She can still blow.
Yes.
Shaka had it. Who else? What did you think about let's see, Fantasia? She kicked her shoes off and sang Precious Lord.
They said that they were having a funeral for her red bottoms, and they had a picture of her shoes down there with her feet. Yeah, which I thought was kind of cruel.
Fantasia. She had that. She churched it up.
See, you wouldn't have.
But didn't she have some pants under a tight dress or something?
I don't know what she had on. I know she kicked them shoes off.
She had a funeral dress. She had on a long black funeral dress.
Okay.
It was Pentecostal approved.
Oh, now talk to me about Pentecostal approved funeral dress.
Long, black, funeral Pentecostal approved.
And you can kick them shoes off.
And you can kick the shoes off.
Because with the Pentecostals, when the spirit hit, they will bring them nurses out.
Yeah.
I wonder if they had any. That funeral or memorial service looked very bougie. Looked like the VIP. Was it VIP kind of upper echelon black community?
It started out as invitation only.
Oh, okay.
And I think when they realized maybe they would have enough room, I think at the last minute they advertised that they were opening it up to non-invitees. Okay. So you had a long line of people who just showed up hoping they could get in. But all up until the funeral, they said it was an invitation only.
Well, you know, Ariana Grande, she has a hit song that says God is a woman. I like that. And it has some Bible verses in her song. God is a woman.
And if God is a woman, imagine what God is going to do when all these misogynistic, chauvinistic, black preachers get to heaven.
Woo, It's gonna be problems
Oh
at
my
the gate.
God, it's gonna be problems at the gate.
The gate is gonna be problems.
So you're saying
Okay.
they are going to get to heaven.
Now here's
Well,
something.
the gate.
You gonna get to the
Then
gate?
you like get to the gate.
Yeah.
Everybody I think gets to the gate. You know.
You gotta
Now
look up your name, huh?
Yeah.
a lot of people confuse this song as a Negro spiritual, but it's not. Amazing Grace, that was sung by Jennifer Hudson, which was the slave trader song.
It was a slave trader.
Break that history of that song down a little bit.
Slave trader.
It was John Newton. He
John
was a
Newton
slave
was a slave trader,
and he
and
had
he-
an awakening, and he
had
wrote Amazing Grace.
He had an awakening about his role in the Middle Passage and bringing slaves, and he wrote the words to Amazing Grace as sort of his soul coming into repentance for his role in the slave trade.
So have black folks have they accepted John into their black bosoms? Because they ain't letting Omarosa in right now. Now Omarosa ain't traded no. Okay, that's another
That's a
program.
whole other show, right? I'll let you come and talk about Omarosa.
Yeah, but John Newton had an awakening.
He had an awakening. And it's been a Amazing Grace is one of the historically popular songs of the black church.
And I think that this memorial service of Aretha has also offered another awakening. So much to talk about within there. Stevie Wonder.
My man.
Stevie Wonder, that's worth the
sings
price of the
here.
ticket.
Worth the price of the ticket.
Always.
I think that the death of Aretha Franklin brought together many of the major flashpoints of African American culture.
It was all there.
It was all there,
And we shared it with the world.
and we shared it with the world, and the world still doesn't understand it.
Let me tell you,
Word.
it wasn't over the top. It wasn't kick off your shoes. You know, it wasn't the words of the song on the fan. The most touching part, most authentic, well, I can't say authentic, but the piece that really touched me was Smokey Robinson talking to his friend. He was talking directly to Aretha, you know, saying, you know, we're the last two that were from the block. You know what I mean? And then when he sung that piece to Aretha, man, Smokey Robinson, man,
He's always something, man.
he was off
And
the chain.
it took you back to that moment. I think it was on Soul Train that Smokey Robinson and Aretha Franklin were sitting on that piano bench singing together.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of took you back to that moment of friendship. And it really did remind you that the death of Aretha was the passing of an era.
That's right.
Certainly a golden era, but looking at that stage, you were able, or the dais, or the pulpit.
Yes.
It was a stage at times. It was a pulpit at other times, but
The psalmist says, he talks about the shadow of death, which is sort of the looming of it without its presence necessarily. Even as you say, you looked at that pulpit, and you saw Jesse Jackson,
Right.
You saw Al Sharpton, and you saw Minister Farrakhan. It was almost like you were looking at a shadow of realizing that even each one of them in their own way are they kind of, Reverend Jesse Jackson is not well.
Right.
he had a lot of content, but it was in his I think it was like 15 eulogies from everybody.
And he's dealing with a lot of
Parkinson. He has Parkinson's.
And so it's almost so even in the celebration of one icon who has gone on, we also we see that it's a whole generation of people that we have
That's right.
we have looked up to, and yet even in the
Who's replacing?
even in the controversy of the eulogy and in the controversy of what happened with Bishop Ellis, I think it reminded us that as we celebrate the leaders who have helped us to get through the struggles of the past, we're also going to have to continue as the black church to deal with the struggles of the present and the future, And it's okay to struggle with them, because as long as we're struggling, it means we're always fighting to be better, to do better, and to get better.
Right on. And they were helping each other up, standing each other up. I mean, it was interesting looking at that dais. Renee Lewis said, "Come as you are, but don't stay as you were." However, she wasn't staying, she was just performing. That's all right. Michael Eric Dyson, did you pull out your dictionary, your thesaurus?
You always have to pull out your thesaurus.
But he killed
Lugubrious.
You could have just kind of, man, he was.
What do you think about the notion of talking to Donald Trump at Aretha's funeral?
Well, I like that, and let me tell you why. I like it because under Smokey Robinson's command, he had an interview on TMZ, and he was asked about how he felt about the service. Was it too political? He was like, it was perfect because Aretha was all of that. He said Aretha was an artist and an activist.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
See, we can't erase the activist part.
No.
She was an artist and an activist. And if you listen to Judge Mathis,
Right.
who talked about Aretha calling him saying, "Get up there and talk about that Flint Water, Michigan situation." He was like, "They beat me up before about that." And she was like, "I thought you was from Detroit." And so I think Michael Dyson, Professor Dyson, hit it on the head. I think Aretha loved that.
Yes.
Speak truth to power and utilize your platform to advance ordinary people and make the world a better place. Don't you think that is a perfect way for an artist to use their platform as a way to expand and bring forth social justice?
I do believe that, and I think that's been our history. Our art, every segment of our culture did what they could do, and how they could do it to help us get free.
Wow.
And Aretha was absolutely a part of that.
You know, even well, let's talk about Al Sharpton. What'd you think about his presentation? Reverend Al.
Always colorful.
Reverend Al, he has a word with words too. You know how pastors are sometimes. If somebody before you sets it off, you better be bringing your A game.
Right.
Everybody elevates everyone.
Well, that's the difficulty of funerals in the black church. First of all, it's almost like it almost turns into a competition.
There you go.
That's us, yeah.
And then if you're the eulogist, you're praying that nobody gets up and starts doing a eulogy before you get up, because by the time you get up, they've heard the sermons.
Well, there was
at least
14, 15, 17 eulogies before Pastor Jasper came up. He said I have never seen a pastor have to do a press conference to explain his eulogy. After a eulogy.
So that tells you that something was wrong. If you have to explain what you said after you said it.
He said, man, after 7 hours, I ain't have no more gospel in me. I ain't have nothing else in me. He held a press conference.
He held a press conference before he preached the eulogy.
Well, he held a press conference after.
He had a pre-press conference and a post-press conference.
Wow. You know, Aretha that's the way to lay down a heavy footprint. And I heard she had 100 pink Cadillacs.
Yes.
And 4 costume changes.
With her ankles crossed.
With her ankles, she had her ankles crossed. Aretha.
I know that was.
I love Aretha Franklin.
That was something.
That was something.
And a gold casket.
Right. They don't usually show the feet now.
Man. Well,
she had hers crossed.
Well, she had them crossed. That's the way to do it in style. Are we prepared to carry on the legacy? And I think that's what the eulogist was talking about. Where is our soul as a people?
Where are the young?
Where is our soul? That's what he was saying. When I was capturing what he was saying and how he was linking it to Aretha, and he was saying, the Queen of Soul, how is our soul? And is our soul in check? And will you be in a better place 100 years from now?
Our soul.
Well, where's the youth representation?
Our soul is in question. And I think that there's a lot of dialogue that will have to happen. And our soul will not be denigrated. Our soul will not be just preached to.
Mm-hmm.
Our soul will not withstand misogynistic, patriarchal behavior.
Mm.
Our soul is in our young people, in our future, and it's in the relationship that we develop with them. And so the church is I think that the soul of our people is in good hands, because it came from God. It belongs to God.
And we are a people who are resilient. We're survivors, and we've overcome everything and every obstacle in our path.
We have overcome everything and every obstacle,
And look good while doing it.
and look good while doing it. And we'll overcome this.
That's right. The eulogist said the queen gave what she could, and we need to give what we can.
Absolutely,
We can agree on that part.
we can agree on that.
You know, here's a part that I think that some shenanigans are being played, Bishop. And I know these are some shenanigans because with all that Prince, who lost the use of his name, and then he changed his name to a symbol, then he wore some duct tape across his mouth that said slave,
Yeah.
then he got his name back. They're trying to tell Brother Jeff that he died without a will.
Yeah.
Now they're trying to tell me Aretha, who had 100 pink Cadillacs at her service, 4 costume changes, said that a silver bullet casket. I don't know. It looks silver to me, but I don't know. And was very meticulous
She took a
about.
lot of time to write that service.
But she don't have a will.
She doesn't have a will.
Who got her will?
You say who got it?
Who got her? Who got Aretha's will? That's the person in trouble. Whoever got that. Whoever did.
the will.
Whoever got, because she got a will. I'm not going to go with the Aretha don't have a will
Well, in
story.
in Michigan, they'll just take all of that $80 million and divide it up among her children.
No, that's what they did to James Brown. He paid thousands of dollars for a will. The courts contested his will because he wanted his money to go to the poor people of Georgia and South Carolina, or the Carolinas.
Mm-hmm.
The courts gobbled all of his money up, contesting the will
In legal fees.
in legal fees. That gets you. You better watch it.
Will. Well, what good was the will?
It ain't no good if you don't double down on these. When they throw that egg, you gotta put our heads together and say, "You're not stealing this
You're not
money.
stealing this."
Your kids are not going to eat off of my people and my mothers and my grandmothers singing." Al Sharpton said about President Trump, "She did not work for you. She performed for you, but she worked for us."
Yes.
That's the Reverend Al.
Yes. He had to clarify that she was not your slave. She didn't work for you.
You're African American.
You're black.
I'm very hopeful about all of the activism I'm seeing and how this music and all of, these artists and athletes are doing what has been done in the past, even though they are getting vilified or the camera's getting turned where you don't see them. The struggle continues, doesn't it?
The struggle continues, and I'm encouraged by the activism. I'm encouraged. I'm seeing people who have never taken the time to speaking out. I just often caution people that as you join this fight and as you become an activist, remember that as you speak truth to power, you also have to be open for truth to come your way as well.
All right.
That's what I often caution people.
It's gonna be some opposition.
It's a two-way street.
It's gonna be some dark times, some valleys, and some peaks.
And you can't pick and choose. I say this to the black church.
And you can't get out
You
there
can't
without
fight.
knowing your history.
You can't fight for the freedom of black people. And then when it comes to LGBTQ rights, then all of a sudden that's a problem.
Well, the eulogist said that. He said the gay has to respect the straight, and the straight's got to respect the gay.
Absolutely. Not just respect them. We got to fight for their rights.
Absolutely.
And so it can't be just social justice.
Justice for all.
It can't be social justice Sunday.
Yeah, it's all out. You gotta push all the chips in.
So if you can't if you can't handle fighting for everybody's freedom, don't pretend like don't get in the fight.
Rashawn Bliss right on. He's gone to brotherjeff.com and made a donation.
Yes.
He said all of you should too. That's 5. We need 5 more of those.
Yes,
folks.
yes.
This has been a great conversation. Again, only the Queen could make all this happen.
Only the Queen could make all of this happen. I pray that it will continue to happen.
What? It was a cup. It was a cup and hold. It wasn't just a cup. It was a hold. It looked like she was trying to pull away a little bit.
It was a holy grip.
It was a holy grip. When you
Unholy grip.
She was off balance, huh?
so, Reverend Dr. Timothy E. Tyler is the pastor of Shorter Community AME Church. A church that has a long tradition. Your whole tradition goes back to social justice.
It does. It was born out of social justice.
Richard Allen and is it Absalom?
Absalom Jones.
They said, no, we're not going to take this.
And they walked out.
And said, we'll start our own.
We'll start our own.
And guess what the white folks said? You can't start your own. Get back over here. They said,
That's what they said. They said,
We got to say, If they had that much sense, I think we've got that much sense also.
I believe so.
And we're doing it.
We're doing it.
So keep on doing what you're doing. Wonderful service. Depending on your internet connection, you could catch the service. It's still going on. Aretha Franklin service is still going on. There's some featured speakers that haven't had a chance to get on that stage yet. It's ongoing. Let's end with Obama's letter. What did you think of former President Obama's participation? Some people are upset that he went to McCain's funeral, but not the Queen's funeral.
Was he invited specifically to the Queen's funeral?
I don't know.
Well, I think that he was invited directly to McCain's funeral.
I know
because
that
he was on
he spoke
program.
to McCain about being on program before he died.
He was on program. So, I think President Obama is a politician and a president, and that was his world and his wheelhouse. He was where he's supposed to be.
I think he was where he was supposed to be.
But I know that he had great respect
And
for
he
the
honored the Queen when in life.
Right.
That's right.
She made him cry.
Yeah. So
She made him cry.
Yeah, at the Kennedy Center.
Well, she made us all cry at one point or the other.
Okay.
Good music make you laugh or cry. But Obama's all good.
I know some people got sensitive. We miss Obama. We want him to come to one of our parties because we miss him.
You think he'll come to town and stump for some of these local state politicians that are trying to get elected?
I hope he will. I hope he will. But then he's gonna be busy because they're trying to get a black governor in Florida. They're trying to get a black governor in Georgia. He's gonna be busy.
Well, let's just close this out. About the dress again. _ appropriate, inappropriate, and who decides what's appropriate when it comes time to worship the Most High.
As far as I know, she didn't come there to worship the Most High. She came there to sing in honor of Aretha Franklin.
All right.
Okay.
So sometimes a homegoing celebration mixes the sacred and the secular.
And the secular together.
And if you don't understand that from our tradition, you're going to get a train wreck.
It's gonna be a train wreck.
But we know that it's all good.
It's all good.
It's all good.
All
good.
good. Let me just look through the free think zone, make sure that we didn't exclude something or someone who might have wanted to just really jump in. Robin said, I can't be just social justice It can't be just social justice Sunday. What happens on Monday?
Social justice. Tuesday, social justice.
So, Jeffrey Johnson, so what we learn is building stronger community relationships. All of this is about relationships.
All of this is about relationships.
Okay. Darlene Smoky Girl Jones said all of her money in her will go to her 3 sons. Okay.
Ask her, will she adopt me, please?
4 sons. 4. Tracy, the attorney has to make some changes. That she's talking about that will. And Jesse Pear says we are exceptional people. Great conversation. Bishop, we got so much more we got to talk about.
Thank you for allowing me to come.
We got to do it. You want to send a shout out to your wife because she will break it. She said that there was a whole. What did she say? It was a whole. There was a whole minstrel show
to the most intelligent and beautiful woman I know in the entire world, Dr. Nita Mosby. Nita Lizette.
Lizette.
Nita Lizette Mosby Tyler.
Twins.
I love her.
Don't try it, Joe.
I'm gonna just leave it right
Back
there.
off.
I'm gonna leave it right there. Lisa says
Somebody say, can we do
Aretha
an
would
extended
have
show
loved
today?
AG. Yeah. She would have loved her as she is. Aretha would have loved her the way Ariana Grande. She would have loved her.
Would have loved
and
her.
she loves her the way she is. And my party note is, no matter what somebody has on, doesn't give you permission to put your hands on it.
Doesn't give you permission to put your hands on them.
Aretha had that mother with.
Leave the Taco Bell menu.
Yeah.
With all that said and done, give the bishop a round of applause right on. Until tomorrow, we'll do it again.
Big up, big up, big up.
If you go down swinging. It's Labor Day.
Yeah.
You know,
Labor Day.
you can look up, you can get up. What you got is enough. Work with what you got.
Work with what you got.
Don't worry about what you don't got. Work with what you got.
Man.
You know. Go down swinging. You just might score a knockout. Rumble, young man. Young men, young rumble women, and people. Y'all keep on rumbling.
That's
My
right.
brother.
My brother.
That's right.
Keep your hands to yourself.
Keep your hands